Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi, and well, I think pretty much everybody knows Modern Horizons 3 is coming to Alchemy probably summer of 2024. But I got something for you today that nobody else is really talking about. And that's the fact that I believe the entire modern format is in fact coming to Arena 2. Let's talk about it and see just what it's going to take for the Arena development team to pull this off. But hey, before we get into all that, I wanted to take just a moment to thank my community for helping the Stronghold reach a bit of a long-term goal here. 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Definitely a tremendous thing. Thank you for all the views, all the subs, all the likes, all the comments, and just generally being a very supportive community. It means so much more than you'll ever know. And hey, what do you do when you reach a goal? You set a new one. So moving forward, my main talking point goal is going to be to reach just 50 followers over on Twitch. And frankly, we're already about halfway there, so this one should be really, really easy. If you're not already following me on Twitch, please consider doing so. And that always gives you kind of a sneak peek of some of the live play content, things like that. And of course, the support continues to help the community grow. And I'll be thinking up a giveaway to do once we get there. Probably not a whole account this time around, but hey, that's okay. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. Back in April of 2022, Explore was added to the Arena client as a sort of on-ramp way to jumpstart the Pioneer format to eventually be there. And the devs over at the Arena team at WotC have not only told us that we're 95% of the way there at this point, but they believe they should have a tournament Pioneer ready to go by the end of 2024. And I remember when Explorer was first added, how people talked about how much needed to be done and whatnot, although they already had or were planning to have already released a full 2/3 of the Pioneer format. And well, here we are less than 2 years later, talking about the complete format being on there, and in total that'll be all of 23, all of 24, so a little less than 3 years. I think that's a total of 32 months to bring Pioneer on there. And well, now people are kind of saying the same thing about Modern. Modern would need to add, I believe, a count of roughly 36 sets, or on average, probably a little more than 10,000 individual cards, based on an average of 300 cards per set, to have a card for card version of Modern. And clearly that could take, well, quite some time. But what if they took the same approach to Modern that they have with Pioneer, really trying to establish a tournament equal version of Modern in much the same way they have with Pioneer, where they're not trying to achieve a card for card copy, but the cards that matter most first? How much work would that really take? So to answer this question, I started by doing a little bit of digging. First, looking at the top 5 most played decks in Modern, both before the most recent Pro Tour and the addition of Lord of the Rings and after. That gave us approximately 10 decks, although I believe 5 color control, if memory serves, was in both lists. To that, I added in the top 5 most budget accessible decks for Modern, and then added a few more decks that were only missing a card or two to bring us up to around 19 or 20 decks, depending upon how you judge some overlap, like the 8 whack lists, Gruul Aggro, Calibrated Blast. Had some very similar lists that may or may not be separate lists. Now, there are some cards that I'm not concerned about. The reprint to Arena, so to speak, of Khans of Tarkir are going to bring 5 of the fetch lands to Arena, although they will only presumably be legal in Historic for the time being. And I'd say that's a pretty obvious telegraph that they're going to release the other 5 enemy fetch lands at some point in the future, even if they never brought Modern to the format. So I'm not counting those cards as potential need to be included. Additionally, a lot of people might not realize that the Tron lands are already on Arena, although they're not craftable. You can only get them through Urza's construction drone. So that I think is very low-hanging fruit, and I'm not counting those because, well, really all they have to do is hit a virtual switch to add those as craftable cards for the Tron decks. And the last piece of my analysis is I did not count any cards that were in these lists that are very likely to be added as part of the ongoing Pioneer expansion. That being Aspect of Hydra, Boros Charm, Dryad Militant, Goblin Pile Driver, Legion Loyalist, Oath of Nisa, Reckless Bushwhacker, Skullcrack, and Unflinching Courage. I'm pretty sure we're getting all of those cards before the end of 2024, one way or the other. So when you take all that into account, believe it or not, to add roughly 20 highly playable modern decks to Arena, you would only need 54 main deck cards and roughly half that amount, I believe the number's 26, for sideboard cards. And well, that is a pretty incredibly small number to add such a vibrant format to Arena. And if you're interested in the individual cards that I am talking about, definitely check out through the link down in the doobly-doo the blogger entry that I made on this that lists every single card. I would also note that Blood Moon was originally in the list as a 27th sideboard card, but at the time of recording that has already been announced as one of the enchanting tales for the upcoming set Wilds of Eldraine, and also preemptively banned in Historic, meaning outside of Brawl you really can't play it on Arena. So as you are drafting Wilds of Eldraine, be on the lookout for those Blood Moons if you're interested in playing Modern, because a lot of people are going to be passing that card up for long-term value that they're not seeing yet. So again, 80 cards is an incredibly small number to bring about so many decks. And really, if you were to take out cards that only appear once or maybe only appear in one archetype, you could cut that number down greatly. And there's no way to know how many of these cards might be in Modern Horizons, but don't be surprised if 10 or 12 of these show up there. That is going to be an easy way to onboard this format onto the Arena client. And of course, let's not forget the recent or even current summer set, Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, was in fact a modern legal set that had way more impact on the format than I think most people were expecting. I know I basically set this set out, so there's probably going to be a couple cards there I and possibly you are going to need to pick up, depending upon what archetypes you might be most interested in Modern. And let's not forget the 2024 budget season is going to be jam-packed with releases here that either might change some of these deck list selections or cross some of these off of our list based on reprints. There's nothing that I particularly see going to happen, but things like Rift Bolt, Fire and Ice could all happen. Path to Exile, maybe doesn't need to be reprinted, but you know, for a budget alternative, I would love to see it on Arena. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but I think the direction of the Arena team here is pretty clear, even though they have not stated it directly as of yet, that Modern is definitely in our future. And folks, before you go, allow me to take just a moment to thank my patrons for supporting everything we do here on the channel. If we're doing this much, imagine what we could do with just a little more support. So take just a moment, check out our patron page. We distribute things there, not just for those making pledges, but for all levels. And we're talking about things that don't get distributed through any other means on the community. And hey, it always helps when you do all those YouTube things.